Following video is not made for kids. Viewer discretion is advised. Hello to my subscribers. This is the TFNG coming to you with a review of one of my more recent Transformers purchases. And the reason why I decided to review this action figure is because it's one I've been excited to add to my collection ever since it was announced. So without further delay, here is the Transformers Studio Series Gamer Edition Voyager class Megatron. Megatron's the fourth figure in the Studio Series line to be released under the Gamer Edition banner. So this is Megatron's design from the War for Cybertron video game that was released by High Moon Studios back in 2010. And I gotta say, I love the box art for Megatron here on the box. It's really impressive looking. It does a fairly decent job of matching up with Megatron's color scheme from the video game. So yeah, there's your product photos. It's kind of hard to see Megatron inside there because of how dark it is. Yes, but yeah, he's a pretty nice looking Voyager class Transformers figure. Going here to the back of the box, you've got your product photos. You got Megatron in robot mode, tank mode, and he transforms back and forth between both modes in 22 steps. And there's a diorama on the inside of the box that is reminiscent of a scene from the video game. And his one sentence bio reads, Megatron launches a full attack on the space station guarded by Starscream and his army. So yes, this was apparently in the War for Cybertron video game. Starscream originally wasn't one of Megatron's Decepticon troopers, but by the end of the game he was. So that was an interesting origin story there. And overall, while he's still inside the box, excuse me please, Megatron's still a pretty impressive looking Transformers figure. So without further delay, let's get him out and take a close look at Studio Series Gamer Edition Megatron in his robot mode. Alright, and so here is the Studio Series Voyager class Gamer Edition Megatron out of the box and in his robot mode. And he's armored up with all his weapons. He's got this, like, mace, axe type weapon. I don't know if you'd call it a mace or an axe. If it is an axe, it's basically an axe that has multiple blades all around it. If it is a mace, then it's a fairly large sized mace. You can either have Megatron holding it here from the tip of the handle, or there's another 5mm port here so you can plug it in elsewhere if you desire. And then, of course, Megatron has his iconic fusion cannon. And unfortunately, I'm using the word unfortunately because the designers at Hasbro and Cartoon decided for some reason, because Megatron's fusion cannon has to look bright, shiny, and glossy. See, the fusion cannon is actually made out of the same gray plastic that Megatron is made of. So yeah, this fusion cannon is black paint. So that's a little discouraging to see that there. But overall, I can't complain with how Megatron turned out. So as far as gimmicks go, Megatron on his shoulder spike here, you can actually angle it down if you want onto now to get it into different positions. And there is one problem that people who got a hold of Gamer Edition Megatron early have seen in these reviews here, but I'll go over it I'll show it off when we get into Megatron's articulation in a bit. But overall, I'm just really amazed at how accurate he is to his design in the video games. That said, a lot of collectors have already been complaining on the blogs on the fanbase websites that Megatron's too skinny and too small because in the actual War for Cybertron video game, he's portrayed as being a beefy and quote-unquote muscular-looking Decepticon. So this one is a little thinner than Megatron's actual appearance in the video games. And one thing that a lot of collectors have been quick to gripe about with this figure is its overall size. Now, bear in mind, in Studio Series Gamer Edition Megatron here is a Voyager class figure, but like so many Voyager class Transformers here that come with large weapons, a lot of the size of the eyes that made this figure become Voyager class is because of the accessory pieces and weapons that he comes with. So, because of his fusion cannon and also his battle axe, for a special size comparison, here is Studio Series Voyager class Gamer Edition Megatron with Gamer Edition Optimus Prime. So here they are standing side by side each other, and even though I'm holding them up in the air, even though they are the same height, even at a distance from first glance, Optimus Prime is more beefy and muscular looking. one could argue that Optimus Prime had to become more beefy and muscular so that he could match Megatron on in strength. But for me personally, I've always enjoyed the idea of Megatron being bulkier than Optimus Prime. So Optimus Prime being a bulkier looking Transformer is a minor gripe, a minor nitpick that I have that I can't overlook due to look. But overall, I would have preferred if Megatron had been as muscular as Optimus Prime looks, especially in his Royal Mode chest. And for another special size comparison, here is Studio Series Gamer Edition Voyager class Megatron with the Generations War for Cybertron Deluxe class Megatron figure that was released back in 2010. So yeah, here they are standing beside each other. And unfortunately, this is one of the main examples of how Transformers action figures have been downsized over the last 2 decades. This was a standard size deluxe class figure back in 2010, and now I'd say Gamer Edition Megatron. Unfortunately, he's a smaller size Voyager now for the current year of 2023. So unfortunately, unlike in my review where I showed off a Gamer Edition Studio Series Optimus Prime with his original Generations Deluxe class action figure, and he looked like he was a size up from that figure. Unfortunately, Gamer Edition Megatron, he is almost the exact same size as his original Generations Deluxe class action figure. The only difference in size between the two of them is that he's almost a head taller than this one, and that's one of the main motivators that I got for getting this figure was because he is taller from his feet to his head, so he can stand beside Gamer Edition Megatron. The Deluxe Megatron figure here, standing next to Gamer Edition Optimus Prime, it's slightly smaller. So, if you want to have a version of Megatron from the War for Cybertron video games that is just as tall as Gamer Edition Optimus Prime, then the Gamer Edition figure is unfortunately the one to get. So, even if you have this figure here, era, this one is still a larger size Megatron figure. But that said, some features of as far as the taking his axe out of his hand for a moment so I can get both these figures on camera here. But comparing Gamer Edition Megatron with the Generations War for Cybertron Megatron figure, as far as which figure is the better Megatron figure, unfortunately, it's a toss-up. Also, in my review of Gamer Edition Optimus Prime, I said that the new Voyager class figure, was far superior than the old deluxe figure. But here with Gamer Edition Megatron, it's really hard to tell which of these figures is the better version. One thing that the old Megatron figure has is that his head is slightly larger than the new Gamer Edition Megatron. The fusion cannon is definitely larger, and that's because this one has a spring-loaded missile launching gimmick, whereas this one is just has a hollow space to it. One thing that a lot of collectors have been disappointed is that one thing that is accurate to Megatron's appearance in the War for Cybertron video game is that here on the old deluxe figure, Megatron has a Decepticon symbol sculpted on his back, and on the new Gamer Edition figure, he just has a 5mm port on some back spikes, and when you fold it down, there's still no Decepticon logo there, it's just hollow space. And I've seen a couple of reviews where people would have liked to when to lower the back panel to have the Decepticon logo hidden inside Megatron's back. But one thing that this version, the Gamer Edition Studio Series figure has beat over the Generations Deluxe figures, that the shade of gray that he's made of is much more accurate to the actual War for Cybertron video game. The old Generations Deluxe figure, the paint job is based more off of Generation 1 Megatron, which is why it's such a light shade of gray. But this one, the old Generations Deluxe figure, it does have slightly more color scheme, especially with the knee spikes. The knee spikes actually have a clear purple plastic on them, and then the top spikes are painted light gray. This one, they tried to mimic the purple that Megatron had on his knees by painting these sculpted designs here with purple paint. But overall, looking at them side by side, the amount of paint that they have is kind of almost evened out. I do enjoy that the parts on the Generations Deluxe figure that are made out of clear plastic, such as the bottom of the knees and then these purple accents here on the robot mode chest, they were clear plastic on this figure. Here it's purple paint, so the Gamer Edition Megatron figure probably has more longevity than the old Generations Deluxe figure. One feature where the new Gamer Edition figure has the old figure definitely beat out is that he has actual fists with 5mm ports inside, so he can hold actual Transformers weapons. But on the old Generations Deluxe Megatron figure, because of how it transforms, instead of having fists, he has actual open fingers on his hands, and he can't hold any traditional Transformers weapons with his hands at all. But overall, as far as which one is the better figure, like I said before, it's a toss-up, so it's up to you to decide which version of War for Cybertron Megatron you like more. And of course, one thing I will show off as far as gimmicks go, like all of the Studio Series Gamer Edition figures, if you want, you can detach Megatron's arm and have him hold the fusion cannon right here. That was a feature of the Transformers characters in the War for Cybertron video game, is that their right side arms would transform into other weapons that they could use. So the designers at Hasbro and Takara Tomy decided to mimic that feature by having the right arms on the Gamer Edition figures detachable and have and give you the chance to swap them out with weapons. So I wouldn't be all too surprised if, say, between 5 to 10 years from now that we see Gamer Edition Transformers figures with with the right arm missing. So to wrap up the look at Megatron in his robot mode, for articulation, his head is on a ball joint, but out of the box, the ball joint is really stiff, so he can look down a little bit, but not upwards too much. Can rotate left and right. Has the potential to spin 360 degrees in both directions, but unfortunately, because of how the ball joint is angled on Megatron's neck, if you twist his head too far, his chin starts to hit his chest, so the head articulation is somewhat limited. At the shoulder, both arms can go forwards and backwards 360 degrees. The arms can go outward this far at the shoulder. There's swivel joints in both arms, but it's easier on the left arm because the right arm, if you spin it too hard, it could probably detach. But it's holding up for now out of the box. Uh, no swivel joints in the wrists due to how the hands end up transforming. You do have a swivel joint in the waist, which is always nice. The legs can go forward that far. They can go backwards this far. So Megatron has a lot of leg articulation in his hips, and he can do a full split if you want to see him do that. He does have swivel joints in the thighs, and he does have a little bit of he does have some ankle rockers in his feet, so you can't get him into a sprawl-legged pose. But of course, there's a joint I forgot, and I am going to address that right now. So there is a universal problem with Gamer Edition Megatron where he has these spikes sticking out of the back of his knees, and the way these knee spikes are shaped. I don't know how you can see that, but yeah, let me move the fusion can out of the way so you can see that again. Watch this. This is Megatron's knee articulation. Yeah, barely 1 millimeter is the amount of knee bend that Studio Series Gamer Edition Megatron has at his knee joints. And if it looks like the upper leg is angled backward from the lower leg, that's because it is. You cannot push it any farther forward. And a lot of Transformers fans and collectors have been chipping and clipping off these knee spikes, but um, I have a strong reason to believe that the knee spikes were actually attached facing the wrong way, and that they might be on the incorrect legs. I hope I'm wrong. On and that it's just a simple knee swap. But actually, now that I'm looking at it, look right here. This sculpted detailing right here where there's this cutoff on Megatron's hip. it follows down here, so unfortunately it looks like the knees might be on the correct legs after all. So yes, unfortunately Megatron has no working knees in robot mode. So that is a bit of a letdown. That is definitely where the old Generations Deluxe figure has beat with fully functioning knee joints. Alright, so that is probably the biggest flaw and the biggest gripe that you will have with Gamer Edition Megatron is that his knee articulation is rendered useless unless these knee spikes on the back of his legs are clipped off, shaved off, and shaved off, and you get rid of them. So other than having a lack of knee joints, I really enjoy how Megatron came out, and even more so than the old Generations Deluxe figure, Gamer Edition Megatron. His arms are different shaped from the other. They're not mirror images of each other. So Megatron does have an asymmetrical appearance to him because both his left and right side arms are different sculpted detailing. But apart from those knee joints being virtually useless and unusable, I still enjoy how Megatron turned out. So without further delay, let's get him transformed into his alt mode and wrap up the review. Alright, and so here is Studio Series Gamer Edition Megatron transformed into his alternate mode of a hover tank, and yeah, I, as much as I enjoy robot mode, and I think robot mode might be my personal, well, I wanted it to be my favorite of the two modes. I think the tank mode is where Gamer Edition Megatron shines much more so than robot mode. That said, and I can now see why the fusion cannon is smaller on this version than the original deluxe, because on the original deluxe class Megatron figure, bringing it in for a size comparison. So here are the two figures side by side. The reason why the fusion cannon is much bigger on the old figures because the entire cannon of the tank mode, of the hover tank mode, is the fusion cannon for Megatron in his robot mode. But here on the new Studio Series Gamer Edition figure, the back area of the fusion cannon, it's now one of Megatron's arms. So that's why the new fusion cannon is smaller than the old one. But in tank mode, it does end up the arm end up forming the back half of the tank barrel. It does make it longer on the Gamer Edition figure than the old one. And here in tank mode, as I said, in robot mode they were roughly the same size, but here in hover tank mode, the Gamer Edition figure is much larger than the original Generations Deluxe figure. But and I do enjoy how they came out here. On the original Generations Deluxe class Megatron figure, the shoulder spike that he had on the one shoulder, it ends up here on the front of the tank mode, and I believe that was accurate to Megatron's transformation. Here on the new Gamer Edition figure, the front spike of the tank, instead of the one on the shoulder actually forming the front of the tank like it did on the original Generations Deluxe, the shoulder spike now sits here on the underside of the tank, and then the shoulder spike, the much larger one Megatron had on his back on the Gamer Edition figure, is the one that actually forms the front spike here for the front of the tank mode. So the shoulder spike did actually transform into the front spikes for the tank mode on the original Generations Deluxe figure. Here on the new figure, the actual shoulder spike's now just a faux spike, while the actual one is on Megatron's back. So, it's crazy how they made it try to mimic this figure here, but then the spikes end up becoming much larger. So in robot mode, this figure was only the new Gamer Edition figure was only slightly larger than the Generations Deluxe figure in robot mode, but in tank mode, it's definitely much larger. Now, there is one feature where the original Generations Deluxe figure has the new Gamer Edition figure beat out, and that's because of this simple transformation step right here. The original Generations Deluxe class Megatron figure, one could argue, is a triple changer, and what the figure can basically do is you can angle the tank treads out to the side, and there are 4 plastic wheels on each of the 4 treads that are sculpted in place, and Megatron can now be a ground-based tank. And here on the new Gamer Edition figure, they decided to abandon that triple changing gimmick that the original Generations Deluxe Megatron figure had in favor of him just being a full-time hover tank. So it is a little discouraging to see that Megatron is no longer a triple changer, but also that there's no wheels or anything on here. But overall, I still don't regret it getting this figure and adding it to my collection, and I'm really amazed at how it turned out. And so, unfortunately, as far as weapon storage for the Mace Axe, acts just like Gamer Edition Optimus Prime, according to the instruction sheet. Pretty much the only weapon storage that you have is just placing it on top of the vehicle mode and having it sticking out of the back, so it looks like Megatron's armed in both the front and back of his tank mode. Oh, so for a size comparison, here he is once again with Gamer Edition Optimus Prime. So it is discouraging that Optimus Prime is a slightly beefier, if you're looking robot than Megatron is. I've always liked the idea of Megatron being physically larger than Optimus Prime. Because having Optimus Prime being smaller than Megatron, it gives Optimus Prime an underdog status, and when they do end up fighting each other, when Optimus Prime is smaller than Megatron, it ends up being a David versus Goliath type battle. And also, when Optimus Prime is bigger than Megatron, Optimus Prime not being at a disadvantage, it kind of feels like Megatron's an easier opponent to defeat. But that's just my own personal preference. But overall, I really enjoy how these figures look standing opposite of each other. And even without the mace weapon on top, Gamer Edition Megatron is a larger tank than the original Generations Deluxe figure, so it's amazing due to how they transform that they're almost similar sized robots, yet one figure transforms into a tank that is much bigger and bulkier than the other one. Unfortunately, the robot mode chest does just end up sticking out on the underside of the tank mode, but then technically the same thing happens with the Generations Deluxe figure as well. If there's any gripe I have, it's that there's not really any way that Megatron's face can be hidden. It's partially obscured by the spikes, depending on how you angle it out. But then again, of course, on the original Generations Deluxe Megatron figure, his robot mode head is just hanging out on the underside of the tank. And so overall, I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself, but despite its flaws such as the bad knees, he's in robot mode. I do wholeheartedly enjoy how Megatron came out. So for the final question of the review, do I recommend getting the Studio Series Gamer Edition Megatron and adding it to your Transformers collection? I do recommend getting it, but the number of flaws that this figure has, the number of drawbacks, do evenly number the amount of positive traits, and so the pros and cons of this figure are evened out. And so, for me personally, the make it or break it deal with Studio Series Gamer Edition Megatron is the fact that in robot mode, even though he's almost a similar sized robot as the Generations Deluxe figure, he is slightly taller, and he is evenly does have the same height as Gamer Edition Optimus Prime. So that was what motivated me to get the Gamer Edition Megatron figure, is that he's meant to stand opposite Gamer Edition Optimus Prime. But if you don't have Gamer Edition Optimus Prime and you have the original Generations Deluxe Megatron figure, and you think the original Megatron figure is large enough to stand opposite Gamer Edition Optimus Prime, then unfortunately Gamer Edition Megatron can be an easy pass for some collectors. But for me personally, I do highly recommend you get this figure and adding it to your collection, because as a standalone figure, this one is much more accurate to Megatron's appearance in the video game than the original Generations Deluxe figure. The paint job is much more accurate, and he does come with a brand new weapon that the original Generations Deluxe Megatron figure did not come with, which is the Mace Axe, is what I'm calling it. I don't know what the actual name of it is. But overall, as far as I'm personally concerned, I do highly recommend you get Megatron. Why in the world his knee joints are the way they are, I honestly cannot say. But hopefully, if this figure does get a re-release, Hasbro and Takara Tomy will fix the knees so that they do work properly in robot mode. Odin. For some reason, you do end up having to bend the knees when you transform Megatron into his tank mode, but for some reason, when he's in robot mode, the knee joint doesn't want to bend at all, so I don't know if it's because as it only can bend when you get the interior of the leg out of the way to transform him into tank mode or not. But forgot what I was going to say for a moment. But don't let the horrible knees deter you from getting this action figure and adding it to your collection. Someone pointed out that a lot of the Generation style Megatron figures that take design cues from Generation 1 Megatron, there haven't been too many figures like that recently, and despite its flaws, the Gamer Edition Megatron is one such figure that does do that, where it emulates. It basically is supposed to be what Generation 1 Megatron would have looked like on Cybertron before he traveled to Earth, and overall, the design of the tank mode, it's pretty nice looking for what it's trying to do, being accurate to the War for Cybertron video game that was released by High Moon Studios. So, thank you guys all so much for watching. The video went on much longer than I wanted it to, but this has been my look at the Transformers Studio Series Gamer Edition Megatron. I recommend you get this figure if you can. And if you can, try to avoid paying more than retail for Megatron. Because, in my opinion, he's one of those Transformers figures where you don't necessarily have to be in a rush to go out and buy him, not like some of the figures that have been released in the Legacy Evolution line. In this year, I do have to admit that as great a figure as he is, and I highly recommend getting him, he's not one of the top tier Transformers action figures, but overall, he's still a fantastic Megatron figure to have. Thank you guys all so much, and until next time, you guys, this has been the TFN Geek. Stay safe, stay healthy, and until next time, you guys, transform and roll out. Goodbye, everyone.